introduce Sean McCarthy, who is the head of this operation here.
Hi,
Do
guys.
you want to just quickly describe to
Sure.
these guys what they're seeing?
Yeah, be happy to.
Left to right or right to left, or whatever makes sense.
Yeah. This facility, folks, is the OCC that runs primarily subway operations, which is basically the red, the orange, the green, and the blue line. We also have a facility down on the 3rd floor that runs our bus operation, and we also work closely with the 2 commuter rail control centers, one over at South Station, one over in Somerville. We also work with our various paratransit providers as well as our ferry services. All the information essentially for the T is generated at one level or another through this building, I should say through this office, and then out to whomever within the authority or even outside the authority needs to know about it. So just to give you a quick scale as far as the room's concerned, this area that you see over to my left is how we represent the green line. For anyone that doesn't know, the green line's a light rail system. It's essentially 4 separate and distinct lines that kind of run on their own out on the surface level, and then they merge together and run as one line in the core of the city between Kenmore and North Station. The headways on the green line during the peak periods are some of the shortest headways in the country, and we do that with all 4 lines running with each other without any real true signaling. So they kind of run almost not unlike the buses run, in that they can berth multiple trains on the same platform. They can get right up on top of one another. So it's we run about 2,200 passenger trips a day on the green line service. So I want to say at last count about 270,000 riders a day. So the area essentially in the middle of the room is the red line. Red line's the largest of our 3 what we call heavy rail lines. So your eyes can fixate. If you see up there, anywhere on that board up there where you see that the track is green, that's just essentially area where a train is cleared to proceed. So if you're out there operating a train anywhere in that area where it's green, you'd be okay to proceed along without any incident. Where you see those red indications with the numbers above or below, those are the actual trains themselves. That's how I watch the trains move. It's called a process called track circuit occupancy, and it's just an electrical ground along the right-of-way that produces that representation for us. The majority of our system signals remain in what we call a fleeted state, and all that means is that they establish in the same direction all the time. We don't have a great deal of diverging routes where trains are going a multitude of different directions. With the exception of the green line and where the Ashmont and the Braintree branch comes together on the red line, all the trains go in the same direction, they come back in the same direction. So rather than the dispatcher having to constantly reestablish that signal, as soon as a train gets far enough ahead that it's safe for the follower to proceed up, the light will change and that train will move along its merry way. The red line and the orange line, which is the area to the right and the upper level there, run on a signal system called automatic train operation, and basically all that is a computerized blocking system that keeps the trains safely spaced apart from one another. As I said, on the green line, these trains can come pretty much up on top of each other as close as they want to. On these other lines, that can't happen. Only way that could ever happen is if the dispatcher manually overrides the signal system and gives them permission to do that. And that's only done under the most deliberate and safety-conscious procedures whenever we do have to do that, and we do unfortunately have to do that whenever we have track or signal issues that compromise the signal system that we have to overcome it manually. So the area on the low right is the blue line. Blue line's a nice little 11-mile stretch of kind of self-sustained entity. It really doesn't require a great deal of interface with us other than when it needs it. We just went to 6-car train operation on the blue line within the last year, as well as procuring all new vehicles for that line. So it's a nice time for the customers over there on the blue line. The blue line signal system's a little bit different, and it's what we call a wayside block system, and it doesn't stop the trains automatically with the computer the way it does on the red on the orange, but what it has is what we call trip stops, and these trips, they kind of look like a T-bar, and they're set up along the right-of-way, and whenever a signal is at danger, indicating that there's a train governing the block ahead, this trip arm will remain up. And there's a corresponding piece of equipment on the train itself, and if for whatever reason the motor person on that train were to violate the signal that we're at danger, these two mechanisms would meet, and you'd get that psh sound. If you've ever been on a train, you ever heard that sound? That's all the train losing its air. All these trains run on air. When they lose their air, they're not going to go anywhere. So that produces what we call an emergency brake application, and that's again designed to allow for the safe spacing of trains. So even if a train were to violate a signal, the brake rate within that brake application would allow it to stop before it came in contact with the train that's up in front of it.
And you're saying that's like a mechanical feature on the track, that something mechanically pops up and activates the brake?
That's correct.
And that's is that on the Orange Line also?
It used to be up until we just, from North Station to Oak Grove, just within the last, say, 14 months, we converted that into the Orange Line.
Okay, but the rest of the Orange Line still, because I feel like I get that on the Orange Line about once a week, and I'm always wondering what it is.
We don't have them on the Orange Line
Oh,
anymore.
so it's something
It's
else.
all automatic train operation. Yeah, I mean, ATO is a funny thing. These circuits that you see up above you where I pointed out that those are actual trains, well, there are some cases due to a multitude of different reasons that will get that, it'll produce that when it's not really a train.
Okay.
And when it does that, if for some reason, say this train that's leaving Harvard northbound now, if we were to have some type of problem that caused a circuit to drop in front of that, and that train all of a sudden recognized a train, it's not really a train, but what it perceives is a train in front of it, the brakes on that train now go to stop. Sometimes between, if a train is traveling at 40 when it's supposed to be traveling at 25, if the train doesn't recognize that quickly enough, the train views it as what we call an overspeed violation.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going faster than you should be, and it'll apply the brakes that way as well. So there are
It's usually-
times when that happens due to traffic. It could be a number of different issues.
That's
When
fascinating.
trains are, yeah, I mean,
It's
again-
pulling out of the station. It seems like it gets like halfway out of the station, and then it'll sort of lurch to a stop, be there for about 30 seconds. This is on the Orange Line around like Jackson Square.
during the peak period.
I'm not
all the
sure.
time.
I always ride it during the peak period, so
Right.
I don't really have.
Yeah, I mean, there is, especially using the Orange Line as an example, the Orange Line is saturated during the peak
Oh,
period.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. We probably could fit a couple more trains out there, provided we
If
have
everyone
them,
breathed in.
but it's, when you operate under a signal system like this, everything is predicated on everything moving. And as soon
Yeah.
as something doesn't, it very quickly affects everything that's behind it.
So I have another on the Red Line. I would take the Red Line regularly from Kendall Square, and it would stop on the bridge, Salt Pepper Bridge, and I'd see it was clear to the stop. Now, obviously, there must have been a train ahead of it, but do you take into account the fact that there's a stop in between the distance of the
We
trains?
do. Typically, well, the track layout, the signal system doesn't necessarily account for the location of the platforms. The way that safe braking is designed, it doesn't say necessarily just because there's a stop here, it's
Okay.
okay for a train. Because if for whatever reason, slippery rail, the motor person, not paying attention, if they were to go through, say, Charles Street southbound, and the train was still outside of Park
That's
Street,
exactly what I'm talking about.
it violates
Okay.
what the industry considered to be safe civil braking standards.
Because like I see the
But what
stop.
we do, and what we train, is that if a person is, say, on the bridge and they can clearly see that child southbound is clear, that motor person will call here and they'll ask for what we call a manual release. And that's what I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
our ability to override the signal system. We can give permission for the operator of that train to manually move in, but we have to confirm that
Yeah.
the station is clear and through line of sight that it's obviously safe for them to occupy that distance.
Because I see the stop I want to get out at. I love getting in the front of the cars. I like to look out the front.
Right.
And I see that it's clear. It's like,
Right.
come on,
It's
just
not-
let me off.
It's not unique to the
Yeah.
red line. It's anywhere that ATO
Yeah.
applies, that situation presents itself. And again, some motor persons will know by experience or what have have you that there is a train ahead, and that as soon as that train moves into Park Street, that block is gonna clear,
Yeah.
thereby it will send a signal to that train that can move.